everyone! Today I'm going to do another video about semi-hydroponics. If you don't know what semi-hydroponics is or how to get started, I would recommend you to check out my entire semi-hydroponics playlist on this YouTube channel. So in this video right here, I'm going to address the pros and cons, which I have addressed in my first semi-hydroponics videos called How to... I'm going to link it at the top. I'm also going to address some of the most frequently asked questions in this video that I've gotten through DMs, through YouTube. I have been doing semi-hydroponics since December. I will start with the pros and cons that I've noticed since then. First, I'm going to talk about maintenance. So I would say my plant routine in semi-hydroponics is a lot easier than in soil because there's really no guesswork to it. Not that I would say that soil is really guessing, because either the soil is moist or dry and you water based on that. Topping off the water level, you can clearly see the water level and you know when to top off or when you don't have to top off based on that. If you haven't seen my entire semi-hydroponics plant care routine, then I will link that at the top. I also have the soil one when my plants were all in soil on this channel as well, so you could check that out if you want to compare. Basically, the whole semi-hydro routine is the same for all plants. I don't do anything different for each specific plant. Another pro is you don't have to worry about root rot. If you understand the whole concept of semi-hydroponics and how there is more oxygen available to the roots, there aren't the same soil bacteria. Something else that I probably should have mentioned in my first videos about semi-hydro is when you first transition a plant, don't freak out if the roots start coming off, if new roots are growing in too. So when you first transition it, and let's say in a few days you check on it again and you notice there's like some darkened roots and they just come right off, those are the old roots that are shedding. And then as long as you're having other roots come in, that's not something to worry about. If your plant is looking perfectly healthy and you see that going on and there's new white roots coming in, do not freak out. Your plant's probably fine. The shedding thing happened with all of my plants except for maybe my syngoniums. Yeah, that's expected. Another pro of semi-hydroponics is it's not messy. Basically, instead of soil getting everywhere, you just have these leca balls maybe flying everywhere, but that's easy to pick up. Leca is an inorganic medium that is reusable. So the balls, if you sterilize them, or if you're lazy like me and just rinse them, you can reuse them for another plant and you can just keep reusing it over and over instead of having to buy new soil for your plants every year. While the cost up front might be a bit more expensive, is something that can be continuously reused. If you want to know ways to sterilize that, I would suggest Google, because I don't actually sterilize, even though it's probably recommended. I just rinse it. Another pro is it is a lot easier to go on vacation if you have your plants in semi-hydroponics. Unless you have someone who you really trust to go through all your plants and know what to water, unless you do like really detailed explanations. All of my plant friends are online and around the country. I don't have any nearby plant friends, so I wouldn't trust anyone with my plants. Something that you can do if you go on vacation is mark exactly where the water line is supposed to be just to fill it back up. That would be really easy versus telling someone water this when dry and that kind of thing. If they're not into plants, they won't know what you're talking about. Another method that I personally haven't tried, but I probably will whenever I do go on vacation, I haven't had to do that yet. I would have this large tray and have all of the plants in there and fill it up to the 1/3 level. And since it's in a larger tray, it would take a lot longer for it to evaporate, and also with the plants grouped together, that would increase humidity. So that's something that I would definitely try. So maybe when I do go on vacation, I will do a video on what I end up doing and then the results when I come back. Hopefully nothing will be dead. Another pro is there's a lot less risks of pests. When I had my plants in soil, I dealt with spider mites. When I had my plants in soil, I was pretty paranoid and I would come up with my phone and analyze every little detail and see either spider mites, soil mites, springtails, all of that would freak me out, but I haven't had any pests at all, including mosquitoes. And I've gotten a lot of questions about that. I've gotten some DMs about mosquitoes, but I haven't experienced any mosquitoes at all and neither have any of my friends who do semi-hydroponics. Another thing to mention is I don't do semi-hydroponics outside, so that may be another factor if you're trying to do semi-hydroponics outside and you're really concerned about mosquitoes, and that also depends on your own environment. Having your plants in semi-hydroponics is not a 100% guarantee that you're never going to have any pests, especially if you do still have some plants in soil. Next, I'll talk about the cons. All of this research that you have to do for this completely different medium, because semi-hydroponics is a lot different from soil. The importance of nutrients and pH, it can seem very intimidating, but once you have the whole concept down, once you understand how semi-hydroponics works through capillary action, why certain things need to be done, why the water level does not need to be all the way at the top. Capillary action works through waking it up to get to the roots of the plant. Then you're gonna be pretty much solid. Like once you learn the whole concept, the basics, and just understand why you're doing what you're doing, then it's not intimidating at all. Once you get over your initial worries, then it's just a lot easier in my own experience. Another con is it might be initially time consuming to convert your houseplants. You have to get rid of the soil. Once you deal with the initial conversion and having your root shed and everything, the maintenance is easy from there. Next, I'll talk about the cost with nutrients and pH. I have the general hydroponics nutrient series, and that's linked down below, along with the pH testing kit that I use, also linked down below. With those, a little goes a long way. So it's an initial cost up front to buy these bags of leca, to buy the nutrients and the pH, either meter if you decide to use that, or I use a pH testing kit. All of that may seem like it's going to be expensive up front, but in reality, you can keep reusing the leca. And then also with the nutrients, I really haven't used much at all, so it's going to last me a very long time. And same with the pH testing kit. Another con that I mentioned in my other video is there's a lot less research out there for semi-hydroponics with houseplants. So especially in the very beginning, when I first started, I was going on firstraise.com, and he does explain semi-hydroponics pretty well, but he's talking about it with orchids. Not that that would really change much with houseplants, but I wasn't sure about which plants would do well in semi-hydro, and I kind of just went for it. I was going off of all of these different websites and compiling them together, even looking at stuff like growing weed in semi-hydro, because there's a lot more information out there, even though I'm not planning on growing weed myself. Now I would say there's a lot more information out there. If you follow Gigi, if you follow me, if you follow Nige and Kay, we do most things in a similar way, but we also do have our differences. So just figure out what works for you. I'm just so happy that I converted my plants to semi-hydro. I don't have that many houseplants. I have less than 30 houseplants indoors, but when I had them in soil, I found it a little bit more overwhelming. So going off of that, me having a total of less than 30 houseplants indoors means that I don't have every single houseplant out there. So a lot of questions I tend to get is, can I plant blank in semi-hydroponics? I have mentioned earlier that everything that I have in semi-hydroponics has been an experiment. I put all of my plant babies on the line trying to go through this process, and so far, I haven't had any transition issues. If you have a certain houseplant that I don't have, just go ahead and do it. If I don't have that plant myself, I'm not going to be able to tell you for sure, but if you experiment with it, then you'll find out for yourself if you can plant that in semi-hydroponics. The easiest to convert, basically any trailing plant. Pothos, trailing philodendrons, trailing monsteras, or philodendrons and monsteras in general. Definitely syngoniums, anything that has thicker roots. If you're gonna propagate in semi-hydroponics, then it's probably gonna be really easy for you to grow that plant in semi-hydro. So anything that you start off in leca is probably gonna do well. The hardest to convert have been anything with more fibrous roots. So I've talked about this before too, but my peperomia, I only have one, and that's a peperomia ripple frost, and the roots are impossible to get the soil out of. So I basically ripped off most of the roots, and I left a little, basically a tiny little root system, and I put it right in leca, and it was doing fine after that. The only reason why I had it in water for a little bit after is because I knocked it over, and it was so hard to get back into the leca. The reason why I keep looking over there is because that's where my plants are. And another one that was difficult was my Ficus audrey. I found that really difficult to get the soil out of because the roots are really fibrous. Also, there's a lot of shedding that's going to happen with your roots and any larger plant. So while this is a monstera, if I pick it up, you'll see in comparison to my body how big it is. This is an established plant. It took me about 3 hours to convert this big boy. It was very root bound, getting all of the soil out, and because it's such a larger plant, it took me a lot longer to do so. It is difficult to convert the larger plants. I'm including my Ficus lyrata or Fiddly fig in that because it is a bigger plant and the roots are fibrous too. So that was another difficult conversion, but I haven't lost a single leaf with any of those conversions. So in conclusion, the plants I've done are cacti, succulents, monsteras, philodendrons, ficus plants, and syngoniums. That is it for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye!